All right, welcome back. So, today I will begin to tackle the long career of one of my favorite bands, Modest Mouse. And so we will obviously start with their first album called This Is a Long Drive for Someone with Nothing to Think About. It was released in 1996 and has a total of 16 tracks on it, so I believe this will probably be the longest video I've ever made, so let's get into it. The first track of this album is Dramamine, and for those who don't know, Dramamine is a drug, and this song is basically about the effects of overdosing on Dramamine. It is pretty good musically. The lyrics are fairly depressing, and the only problem I have with this song is that it goes on and on for so long, and it only has two verses in it, but that's a lot of Modest Mouse's songs in these early stages of their career. But I think it's decent, so I'll give it a 5.25 out of 10. Next up, track 2 is much better, and it's called Breakthrough. Um, I really like the slow build up into the huge explosion that is the chorus. It's a really catchy song, and for whatever reason, I really like Isaac Brock's vocals in his earlier albums. Um, I don't know why, they're just so good, but then again, I like them all the time, so I'll give this song a 6.75 out of 10. Next up, track 3, One Up's Breakthrough, and this is none other than Custom Concern. And fun fact, this was the first Modest Mouse song I ever memorized. The music is great, lyrically is even better, and it's close to a perfect Modest Mouse song. The only annoying thing about this one is whenever I'm shuffling my playlist and it gets to this song, it'll have the two verses, and then for about 2 minutes it's the same looped background music. I just find it annoying, especially when I have limited skips and whatnot. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Next up, track 4 is called Might, and this is a super unpopular opinion, but this is not a very good song. Thankfully, however, it only lasts about 90 seconds, so the torture is over quickly. I guess it's not all that bad, but it's severely overrated, and I don't understand how people think it's one of the top tracks off this album. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 10. Next up, track 5 is Lounge, and this song isn't the greatest either, especially the first quarter of it. Around the 2.5 mark is when the song gets pretty good. It's just a beautiful instrumental, and honestly, the song would probably be better if it didn't have that first 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But with all that being said, though, the last instrumental doesn't make up for the bad start, in my opinion, so I'll sadly have to give this one a 4.75 out of 10. After that, we have track 6, Beachside Property, and what a depressing song. Not only are the lyrics very well written and sound special, the music itself is great. And to be honest, the first time I listened to this, Isaac's scream at the beginning caught me so off guard, but I think it just makes this song much more special. I don't think words can really describe this brilliant song. I'm just gonna give it a rating of 8.25 out of 10. Next up, track 7 is She Ionizes and Atomizes. This is another very beautiful song, very well written, and I'm glad for the second half when it goes into full instrumental mode. It changes the vibe and goes a bit more fast paced and wild. And I really think that's where the song has Custom Concern beat. Custom Concern just repeats the same thing over and over while She Ionizes and Atomizes mixes it up a bit. I'll just have it beat Custom Concern with just a little bit by giving it a 7.75 out of 10. Next up, track 8, about halfway through this experience. It's called Head South, and it really is a good song. Not the greatest off this record, but it's good. I really like when Modest Mouse go from calm to crazy, and this song does it perfectly. Like I said, it's not the greatest, but if you are new to Modest Mouse, I definitely recommend this song. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Next up, we have track 9 called Dog Paddle. I had never heard this one before making this review, and it kind of reminds me a lot of I Came as a Rat from their Moon and Antarctica album. I do believe I Came as a Rat is better than this one, but this is still a good song. I feel like this one has more meaning as well. I'm not sure about this, but I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this one because I don't really like the overlapping words, and I'll just give it an even 5 out of 10. Next up, track 10 is one of the best songs off this album, and that is Novocain Stain. To be honest, I don't even pay attention to the lyrics in this song because even though they're well written, it's just such a good song to chill to. It's definitely a great Modest Mouse song, so I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. Next up, track 11 is another great one. It's called Tundra Desert, and the only bad part is how slow the build up to the crazy part is. I generally listen to Modest Mouse whenever I'm doing chores and whatnot, like cutting the grass and stuff. But it's hard to feel pumped up the whole time when it's a slow, depressing start, especially when they do such a good job at fast paced songs. With all that being said, though, I think I'll have to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Following that, we have Ohio. This is track 12 off this album, and it's not as good as some of the other ones. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is still an incredible song, but not to the level of some of the other Modest Mouse songs off this album. However, I still really do like it, and I'll give it a 6.75 out of 10. Following that, we have an iffy song called Exit Does Not Exist. It's beautifully written. I really like the name, but the music is just a lot more annoying to me than anything. Also, fun fact about this one, Modest Mouse used basically the same bit of guitar from this in Float On. I don't know why, but I find it pretty cool. And if you don't know, just go back and listen to it with the mindset of this sounds like Float On. You'll understand. But yeah, not much else to say about this one other than it's alright. I'll give it a 5.25 out of 10. Next up, we have thus far, hands down, the best song off the album. It's Talking Shit About a Pretty Sunset. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was just in awe about how absolutely depressing the lyrics were. I mean, I was just thinking to myself, how many people might actually have committed, I'm not allowed to say it because YouTube, but the S word where you commit not live anymore. But they commit that without really realizing how perfect they had it until the last second when it was too late. It's really upsetting, and I just can't imagine that. This one will get a 9.5 out of 10 for the amazing lyrics and musical abilities on display. Next track is number 15, Make Everyone Happy / Mechanical Birds. The song is really good, and for some reason it kind of reminds me of a Pink Floyd type song until it gets into the Modest Mouse crazy guitar solos. But yeah, definitely a great song, and I recommend it to any new Modest Mouse listeners. I'll give it a nice 7 out of 10. And finally, we have reached our final track on this album, and we have Space Travel is Boring. And honestly, in my opinion, this is a very weak way to end off a great album. I mean, yeah, it's still a great song, but it shouldn't end this masterpiece. I really think Make Everyone Happy / Mechanical Birds and this one should be flipped. Just so it goes out on a high note. But I guess having one on the end that's bad might actually be a good thing because then you don't have to like go and skip it if you're listening to the album from start to finish. You can just see that one. All right, well, time to put it on a different album, replay this album, whatever. But yeah, with all that being said, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. So there you have it. My official review for this is a long drive for someone with nothing to think about. The only thing now left to do is get the album's final score, and we do that by calculating the average score amongst the songs in the album. Alright, the album's calculation, whatever you want to say, has been finished, and it has gotten a 6.45 out of 10. Much lower than I had originally expected. I guess with as many 5 or less ratings I gave, it shouldn't be that surprising, but even with all those, the pluses definitely outweigh the minuses. So I definitely recommend this album to anyone who's a fan of indie rock or even punk rock or anything rock related. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this album and album suggestions in the comments. I'll see you later.